South Africa and EU sign critical minerals deal. Relentless rains in Vietnam flood 52,000 homes. Hello, good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. My name is Daryl Baptist and you're watching World Today. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim arrived in South Africa at 6:38 p.m. local time on Thursday to attend the Group of 20 or G20 Leaders Summit. The plane carrying Datuk Seri Anwar and the delegation landed at the Waterkloof Air Force Base, Pretoria, and was received by Malaysia's High Commissioner to South Africa, Dato' Yubazlan Yusof, and South Africa's Deputy Defence and Military Veterans Minister, Major General Bantu Bongke Harrington Holomisa. The Prime Minister's entourage then departed from Pretoria en route to Johannesburg, a journey that typically takes approximately 1 hour. The invitation to the summit, which runs from the 22nd until the 23rd of November, was extended to Datuk Seri Anwar in Malaysia's capacity as ASEAN Chair for 2025. The visit also strategically reinforces Malaysia's historical ties with South Africa, while using the G20 as a high-level catalyst to champion the Global South agenda on the world stage. The Prime Minister will deliver Malaysia's statement during Session 1, which will be held on the 22nd of November. In addition, he will also deliver Malaysia's statement in Session 2 in the afternoon. Following his address in Session 2, Datuk Seri Anwar will attend the G20 Leaders Dinner hosted by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at the Nasrec Expo Centre. The Prime Minister is scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting with the South African President on the second day of the working visit. Both leaders are expected to discuss key areas of cooperation, including trade and investment, palm oil, halal industry, and education, as well as capacity building. In another development, South Africa and the European Union vowed to defend multilateralism on Thursday ahead of the G20 summit as they signed a partnership on critical minerals. South Africa is hosting this year's G20 gathering amid a boycott by its most powerful member, although President Cyril Ramaphosa said the United States was now considering attending in some capacity. Analysts see a U.S. absence or any obstructive move as an opportunity for South Africa to build closer ties to the European Union and China, its two largest trading partners. The first G20 in Africa is a showcase for a continent that has fast-growing economies and vast mineral wealth. EU leaders are scrambling to secure dozens of metals that are vital to the world's transition away from fossil fuels to renewable energy, for the revolution in computing and for defense, as it faces potentially damaging restrictions on supply from China, the world's main supplier of rare earths. The EU plans include stockpiling rare earths before rivals, including the United States, and developing a €9 million joint purchasing mechanism. A fire that forced an evacuation of the COP30 climate summit in the Brazilian city of Belém on Thursday was under control, officials said, although it was unclear whether delegates would return immediately to continue negotiations. Brazil's tourism minister told reporters at the venue that the fire was under control and no one was hurt, but he did not know whether delegates would be able to return on Friday to the part of the venue where the summit negotiations were taking place. Summit organizers said Brazilian fire officials had ordered the evacuation of the summit's entire premises. The UN said the fire was extinguished after 6 minutes and 13 people were treated for smoke inhalation. The summit in the Amazon city was initially scheduled to wrap up on Friday, but it missed its self-imposed Wednesday deadline to secure agreement among the nearly 200 countries present on issues including how to increase climate finance and shift away from fossil fuels. The fire scare occurred in what is already a hive of activity during the summit's 2-week run, interrupting ongoing negotiations inside the venue. United States President Donald Trump on Thursday removed his 40% tariffs on Brazilian food products. The tariff imposed on food products include beef, coffee, cocoa and fruits that were imposed in July to punish Brazil over the prosecution of its former president, Trump ally Jair Bolsonaro. The move follows a similar order by the administration last Friday to remove tariffs on several agricultural products as the White House makes a U-turn on some tariffs that have increased the cost of food in the United States. According to the text of the order released by the White House, the order will affect Brazilian imports to the U.S. on or after 13th November and may require a refund of the duties collected on those goods while the tariffs were still being charged. Brazil normally supplies a third of the coffee used in the United States and has more recently become an important supplier of beef, particularly the type that is used to make burgers. Venezuela's National Assembly on Thursday approved a 15-year extension of the joint ventures between state company PDVSA and a unit of Russia's Rosneft that operate 2 oil fields in the South American country's western region. The partnerships may continue operating at Boquerón and Peria oil fields through 2041 with the goal of producing some 91 million barrels or 16,600 barrels per day of crude. Lawmakers, before approving the extension, said the total investment is estimated at about 616 million US dollars. Rosneft, owned by a unit of the Russian Ministry of Economic Development, was incorporated in 2020 and soon afterwards acquired the Venezuelan holdings of Russian state-run oil company Rosneft, as Washington imposed sanctions on 2 of Rosneft's units for trading Venezuelan oil. Venezuela's PDVSA also remains under U.S. sanctions, which in recent years have limited foreign investment and partners willing to do business in the South American country. French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Mauritius on Thursday for an official visit at the invitation of Prime Minister Navin Ramgoolam, the first by a French head of state since François Mitterrand in 1990. Macron landed in the afternoon for a roughly 24-hour stay before continuing his diplomatic tour to South Africa, where he will attend the G20 summit. His program includes a courtesy call on President Dharam Gokul and a one-on-one meeting with Ramgoolam and a state dinner. Macron will also attend an event on esports and emerging technologies at the Caudon waterfront and inaugurate a new French embassy project. The visit underscores France's efforts to deepen ties with Mauritius and promote cooperation in technology and regional diplomacy. Mauritius sits just north of the French overseas territory of Reunion and, according to the World Bank, has a per capita GDP of more than 8,600 euros, equivalent to about 9,900 US dollars. Home to just over 1.6 million people, Mauritius has changed sharply over the past 3 decades. Iran has officially withdrawn from a key cooperation arrangement with the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, escalating tensions over its nuclear program following a split vote at the UN Watchdog's Board of Governors. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced that Tehran now considers the so-called Cairo Understanding terminated after the board approved a resolution urging Iran to, without delay, provide answers on its enriched uranium stockpile and clarify issues related to facilities damaged in attacks earlier this year. The resolution, drafted by the US and the European trio of France, Germany and the UK, passed 19-3 with 12 abstentions. It made no mention of Iran's cooperation with the agency, something Tehran had insisted be acknowledged. Calling the resolution illegal and unjustified, Araghchi accused its sponsors of using political pressure to push it forward, saying the move undermines the IAEA's credibility and independence. He said the measure was adopted under pressure from these 4 countries, despite opposition or abstentions from 15 board members. Up next, ex-Philippine mayor given life sentence for human trafficking. But before that news, the death toll from a new round of torrential rain, flooding and landslides in central Vietnam since the weekend has risen to at least 41. The Environment Ministry said, with water levels continuing to rise in already inundated towns and villages. Rainfall has exceeded 1,500 millimeters in several parts of central Vietnam over the past 3 days. The floods and landslides have also left 9 people missing and inundated more than 52,000 houses and over 10,000 hectares of crops. Traders said the floodwaters have also inundated coffee farms and hampered an ongoing coffee harvest in the region. More than 553,000 households and businesses are still facing blackouts after power grids were damaged by the floods. Residents, including children, could also be seen sitting on the roofs of flooded houses and calling for help via social media platforms. The Vietnam News Agency reported that naval forces have been deployed to help stranded citizens in Can Hao, adding that floodwaters have reached record highs in many areas. The National Weather Forecast Agency warned of more floods and landslides to come, with heavy rain set to continue in the region. A Philippine trial court on Thursday sentenced a former mayor accused of having ties to Chinese criminal syndicates to life imprisonment after finding her guilty of human trafficking. Alice Guo ran for mayor in Bamban, an agricultural town north of the capital, Manila, as a Filipino citizen. But she was later identified by law enforcement as a Chinese national, Guo Huoping. Guo has previously denied links to criminals and has also maintained that she is a natural-born Philippine citizen. The Philippine Senate launched a congressional probe into Guo in May last year, 2 months after a police raid revealed a scam center operating out of a facility built on land partially owned by Guo. It was one of many such centers to spring up across Southeast Asia in recent years. The raid uncovered hundreds of trafficked workers, including foreign nationals, resulting in a human trafficking complaint against Guo from the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission. Guo's case has gripped the Philippines, where suspicions about China's activities have been building as a result of escalating tensions in the South China Sea, in which the two nations have overlapping claims. Former Peruvian President Martin Vizcarra pleaded not guilty on Thursday to corruption charges stemming from his time as governor of the southern Moquegua region. Vizcarra, who served as Peru's president from 2018 to 2020, faces up to 15 years in prison on allegations that he received approximately 2.4 million soles, equivalent to about 710,000 US dollars, in bribes from construction companies, Obranza and ICCGSA between 2014 and 2016. Prosecutors allege the payments were made in exchange from awarding contracts for the Lomas del Ilio and Hospital de Moquegua projects during his tenure as regional governor from 2011 to 2014. Vizcarra, during closing arguments, insisted that he is innocent during the court's closing arguments. He expressed confidence in the judges and pledged to attend all remaining hearings and listen to the verdict when the tribunal issues its decision. The court will deliver its final ruling on the 26th of November. Chile's National Forestry Corporation, CONAF, announced on Thursday that it has opened all internal investigation to determine what went wrong after 5 tourists died in a devastating snowstorm at Torres del Paine National Park. The victims, 2 Germans, 2 Mexicans and 1 British national, became lost near the park's Los Perros camp during a powerful blizzard that brought whiteout conditions and wind speeds exceeding 193 kilometers per hour, equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane. The agency, which manages the park, said it will review how protocols were activated, how communications were handled, and how search, rescue and evacuation operations were conducted. Mauricio Ruiz, CONAF's director for the Manganales region, acknowledged that no personnel were stationed at the Los Perros crossing on the day of the tragedy because staff had gone to polling stations to vote in presidential elections. Manganales District Attorney Christian Crisosto said investigators will take statements from all hikers in the group, CONAF personnel and employees from tourism company Vertis to reconstruct a sequence of events. Samsung Electronics said on Friday that it has named its mobile chief, TM Roh, as a new co-CEO and head of its device experience division. Roh's appointment into the division will see him supervising the company's mobile phone, TV and home appliances businesses. The appointment returns Samsung to its traditional co-CEO structure, which divides oversight of its chip and consumer divisions after the company had been operating under a sole CEO setup following the sudden death of co-CEO Han Jong-hee in March. Rowe has been supervising, or rather serving, as acting head of the consumer business since April, following Han's death. The reshuffle comes after Samsung's appointment earlier this month of a new head of its business support office, a key decision-making body at the technology giant that serves Chairman J.Y. Lee. The body functions as a strategy unit that acts as a mini control tower inside Samsung Group, South Korea's top conglomerate, whose businesses range from chips to smartphones, ships and pharmaceuticals, and coordinates across business units and affiliates. Warner Brothers Discovery has received preliminary bids for the media company from Paramount, Skydance, Comcast and Netflix. The bids represent the first step in the possible sale of all or part of the century-old Hollywood studio, whose entertainment brands include HBO, CNN and the Warner Brothers Film Studio. Paramount is expected to bid for all of Warner Brothers Discovery, including its cable television networks. The company's bid is backed by the studio's controlling shareholder, billionaire Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, who is among the world's richest men. Warner Brothers Discovery board rejected a mostly cash offer of nearly $24 a share for the company. Netflix and NBC's Universal's corporate parent, Comcast, are interested in Warner Brothers film and television studios and HBO, but not Warner Brothers basic cable networks, which include CNN, HGTV and TNT. Warner Brothers Discovery previously announced plans to split the company into two publicly traded companies, separating its studios and streaming business from its fading cable networks. Coming up in sports, Italy versus North Ireland, Sweden versus Ukraine in European World Cup playoffs. Go Zifei and Noor Izzuddin Ramsani underline their determination to end this season on a strong note after powering into the Australian Open quarterfinals on Thursday. Though they have been ruled out of the lucrative season-ending World Tour Finals, or WTF, the world number 4 pair showed no signs of deflation as they battled past Taiwan's Liu Qiangheng and Yang Po Han 21-23, 21-17, 21-10 in Sydney, extending their head-to-head dominance to 3-0. Zifei Izzuddin let slip a 13-9 lead in the opening game, but displayed impressive resilience to regain control before storming through the decider. The duo will be keen to redeem their season, which promised much at the start, but never truly regained the momentum that once took them to the world number 1 spot. They were in scintillating form in the second half of last year, clinching titles at the Japan Open, China Open and Arctic Open, and finishing runners-up at the World Tour Finals. They then opened the 2025 season brightly by winning the India Open in January, but results dipped thereafter. Moving on to the world of tennis, Spain brushed aside the absence of Carlos Alcaraz to beat the Czech Republic in the Davis Cup quarterfinals and move one step closer to a first title in 6 years. A heartbroken Alcaraz pulled out of Spain's squad for the finals on Tuesday after the new world number 1 was advised not to compete in Bologna because of swelling in his right hamstring. Without their talisman, the Spanish team were forced to come from behind against the Czechs after the big-serving Jakub Mensik, with 20 aces, defeated Pablo Carreno Busta 7-5, 6-4 in the opening singles rubber. Yaomi Muna, with his first singles win at the Davis Cup, took the tie to the deciding doubles with an impressive 6-3, 6-4 victory over US Open quarter-finalists and world number 17 Jiří Lehecka. Czech captain Thomas Berdych switched Mensik in for the doubles, but to no avail as he and Thomas Makak, both singles specialists, fell 7-6, 7-6 to Marcel Granollers and Pedro Martinez. The Czechs were left to rue their missed opportunities in a 2-hour tussle, having held a 4-1 lead and 3 set points in the first set tie-break, while 2 further set point chances were missed in the second set. In another match, Germany bounced back from an opening singles defeat on Thursday to beat the Argentina 2-1 and reach the Davis Cup semi-finals, where they will face Spain. Argentina's Thomas Echeverry fired 23 aces to earn a straight sets victory over Jan-Lennart Struff. Former Olympic champion and world number 3, Alexander Zverev, is the highest-ranked player left at the Davis Cup, and the Germans utilized him to respond for a dominant 6-4, 7-6 victory over Francisco Cerundolo and send the tie to a doubles decider. Then there was plenty of drama in the decider, which lasted almost 2.5 hours. Argentina's Horacio Zeballos and Andres Molteni saved 4 match points but wasted 2 themselves in the third set tiebreak before Germany's Kevin Kravitz and Tim Putz battled back to a 4-6, 6-4, 7-6 victory to send their team to the last 4 in Bologna. We now kick our way into football, where Italy will face Northern Ireland in the European playoffs in their bid to qualify for the 2026 World Cup, while Sweden meet Ukraine as 16 teams learn the pathways that determine the 4 remaining European slots for the global tournament. 4 times world champion Italy again failed to secure direct qualification after finishing second in their group as they seek to qualify for the first time since the 2014 edition. They were knocked out in the playoffs the last 2 times and entered the second round as top seeds, with a potential final against either Wales or Bosnia and Herzegovina to qualify. Northern Ireland, on the other hand, have not qualified for the World Cup since 1986. New Sweden boss Graham Porter's side must first get past Ukraine, while Poland face Albania in the other semi-final in their pathway. Denmark face North Macedonia, the Minos who famously knocked out Italy in the playoffs last time. The Czech Republic will have a tricky task when they host Ireland, who booked a playoff spot with a last-gasp win over Hungary. Turkey face Romania, who are seeking their first qualification since 1998. Kosovo are attempting to qualify for the first time since they became a FIFA member as they take on Slovakia, who last played at the 2010 World Cup. The single-leg knockout matches will take place in March, with the semi-finals on the 26th of March and the finals on the 31st of March. That concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, South Africa and EU sign critical minerals deal. Till then, my name is Jarl Baptist, Malaysia Madani. Thank you for watching and enjoy your lunch hour, Malaysia. Good day.